You mentioned you said it very well over the phone, your relationship with Priscilla, it's much closer than just the average cousin. Tell us a little bit about how really well you knew her.
Priscilla and her brother Eddie were literally our first babies. We took them with us wherever we went. We took them to Marine World and Great America and just anywhere and everything to give them as much fun as possible in life. We wanted them to enjoy everything and not miss out on stuff. Me and my friend Dana, we basically took them anywhere and everywhere we went. We would watch Drop Dead Fred over and over and over, and it was like always the funniest thing her and her brother have ever seen. She's just full of life. In school, she was just full of wanting to be part of activities and the talent shows. We did a Spice Girls talent show choreograph, and I'll never forget that. That was a fun time with her and her friends. I tried to coach volleyball, me and Dana, one time with them. And David also has some fun memories with her, I'm sure. You there, David?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had it on mute.
Okay. She just had this presence since she was a little girl. She liked to model clothes. She would always put clothes on and walk into a room and do the little twirls. And to the very end, she loved fashion. She loved doing hair. She was amazing. Her makeup. She did want to have a salon one day, and maybe one day her daughter will follow in her footsteps, or her sister. Jasmine's just as good as she is. She just brought life with her. She would light up a room. Any room she walked into, her personality would just fill it with life, and her laugh. And she was sarcastic, and it was just always funny comebacks to anything anyone said. And it was never in a malicious manner. She just had that sarcastic sense of humor that just threw people off and just made people laugh every time. She was our baby. She was our angel, and she's now literally our angel. And she was taken away for no reason. Even if this person gives us a reason why, I don't think we'll ever understand it. He took so much away from our family. Our family has already lost so much. We lost our cousin Day Day in 2010 and now to lose Priscilla, it's just heartbreaking. And to have it come up that 2 other people lost their lives for this senseless act is just heartbreaking. It's the families of Douglas and James, our hearts go out to them, because they're just now dealing with this. They probably already came to some kind of peace with the fact that they were lost in the fire, but to hear that it was to cover up the murder of our cousin, our hearts go out to them, because this is a whole new ball game for them, and we're here for them and we pray for them.
Going back to what happened in August, do you remember anything about that time frame? And did she ever mention anything to you guys about this gentleman she was supposed to go out with on a date?
Not that I know of. David, you were probably talking to her a bit more at that time. Do you know of anything?
No, we didn't know. Nobody.
David, are you able to turn your video on? I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
I'm in my car, so
that's okay. Are you driving?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then never mind. That's okay.
I'm about to be off the freeway in like 2 minutes, so I'm gonna just let Stella keep. Well, just because, like she said, nobody knew of this man, so it wasn't like she was dating him for very long. It just seems suspicious. That's all I would say, is that this man did not know our cousin at all.
Okay, and I'll throw it back to you, Maristella. So it seems suspicious to the family.
Yeah.
So you guys had never heard of him.
Never.
Was he somebody that I was reading it somewhere? Did they meet online?
That is possible. Priscilla, I believe, was single, so she might have been, just I don't know. That's my speculation. I have no idea. But we never heard this name before. I've never seen that face. It's etched in my memory now forever. But no, nobody would know him from the person walking down the street. And then to find out that, he was driving her car and parked it near his house. And I mean, it's just so like, it's disgusting. This whole thing is just disgusting. I don't have another word for it, because if I start thinking about it, I'm like, you're not gonna like what I have to say right now.
It's okay. So at what point did the family realize maybe something's not right here, or something like she's not responding to my texts or my calls? Can you explain that?
Immediately. I'm sure David could say it more, but immediately. Priscilla is always on her phone. She's always texting, just like we all are. We're a very close family. We text all day, all night. We have text wars going on back and forth. And for her not to respond with even just a thumbs up, or, saying peace, good night, whatever it is, and to not get that for a day, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then you put that on a day, 2 days, 3 days, your heart stops when you know somebody and that's out of character, completely out of character. She's big on social media. She loves posting pictures on Instagram. She stopped posting on Instagram. It's just things like that you pray that you're just off. Maybe she is at a friend's house and they just went away, or her phone, you start reasoning with yourself on why this is it. You don't want to go to that dark place. Nobody wants to go to that dark place. And which is why we made it our point to get it out on social media. And I think that the family and all her friends, thank you to all of her friends and family that kept sharing her posters and just praying for her return. We did get her back, not the way we all wanted, but to at least have her back is some solace to the family. So the fact that it did get as much attention is just a blessing to us. And I think it's put a lot of pressure on him. He probably seen it himself, and I hope he did. I hope he's seen the love that everyone had for her, because he took away a very special person from everyone, not just the family, everyone.
So I want to make sure I have the timeline correct. So she drove out to this area to have a date with this gentleman. I think the date we reported was August 16th. So somewhere in mid-August, she drove out there. The family knew maybe right away, or like within a day, like she wasn't responding to text.
That would be David would probably know, and her sister would know better. I wasn't texting with her as often just at that point, but I'm sure they noticed immediately. I could tell you, because I don't know if she even said the name of a friend, or maybe she just said, I'm going to a friend's house, so I don't think she even mentioned that it was a date, because who knows, maybe she didn't want them to know she was going on a date, or you just don't know the reasoning. Why she didn't give a name or where she was actually going, if she did. But for us, the very next day is when I knew. And that's saying a lot, because that means they probably had suspicions that night. They're probably waiting for her to come get her daughter, or come to bed, or say goodnight, or whatever it is that they do as a family before bed. And she's not responding. I know that's out of character for her.
You said she has a daughter. How old is her daughter?
She's 9. I'm not sure if the family wants to discuss her or anything, so I'm going to leave her out of it for now. That's not my place. But she's doing okay. She's doing okay.
Gosh, wow. And so they were able to recover her body within like a month of that date.
Yeah. And it was said that they believe that he killed her the day after they met. So we don't know how long she was dead. We don't know if he had her somewhere and transported her back there when the heat was getting on him, or we don't know any of that. It's all just speculation to us. I'm sure the police and maybe her mom and sisters and aunt know a lot more of that investigation part. But yeah, it's just sad.
And so with all of that being said, 8 months after the fire started, 8 months after this first date, we all found out just a couple of days ago that, the sheriff's office and the district attorney's office believe, this huge fire was all intentionally set as like a cover up to cover up what actually happened to her. So when you heard about that news, I know this is not easy to talk about, so we can take this slow.
It's okay.
What was going through your mind when you found out?
That's very difficult. I mean, it's just a senseless act. Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? First of all, there's all these huge fires going on in the first place, and then to intentionally set one. And that ended up that our family is now linked to this fire forever. And now these two other gentlemen are linked to it forever, is just not something our family would want to deal with. It's so sad. We pray for them. We pray for the families that just found out about this, because they're going to have, again, go through all of this grieving process all over again and do their entire thought process on the situation of how their loved one died. And now we have to learn how to deal with the fact that she was not, I don't want to say the reason, I don't know the words to say, but he used her, and then he disposed of her, and then he set the world on fire. Why? What did she do? What was the purpose of doing this to anybody? Why? And to start it somewhere so close to all these other fires, thinking you're going to get away with it because it's probably going to come this way. No. I can't believe it. I work in the legal field. I worked in fire and the fire teams and stuff. So I know what happens when all this goes on, and just knowing just the environmental impacts of it alone is shocking. Knowing that he intentionally set this as arson and then put on that to cover up the death of our cousin, our family. It's devastating. It's all devastating. And to think of my cousin lying there burnt. And thank you so much to the officers and the firemen and everybody that kept this going, that kept investigating and took it this far for my cousin, for her life and for her memory, and finding out for the other family the truth behind their deaths. I mean, we thank you. We thank them from the bottom of our hearts. I can't say that enough, that after 8 months, they were still doing this. It does lift us up a little bit to know they're not giving up on her.
Absolutely. And I have to ask, I realized that her body was obviously not recovered until September. But at that time in September, and also at the time in August, when you guys knew there was something up and she wasn't responding, did you guys have any belief whatsoever that she was in this fire or was somehow associated in that area?
I would never place her in that area myself. I would never. The fires were a completely different story that was shocking in itself, how large they were. No. And then to find out that, yeah, where my cousin is in there somewhere, and it's no, we never would have put two and two together in a million years. And to me, when we first heard that she was found burned, my first thought was he brought her to the fire to get rid of the evidence. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking he's just trying to get rid, not knowing that he actually set this fire. It was arson. You know, I'm thinking he's moving her around or something, like the thoughts that go through your head, the dark places and the nightmares, and you know, you're like a walking zombie when you find these things out, because how do you process it? It's not something you can hear and just walk away from and go back to work. It's like, it stops you right there in your tracks, like, oh my God, this is Priscilla, this is my Leah, you know, how is this possible?
It hurts. It hurts my heart because I had to watch her daughter be told the news personally, and I'm just thankful that whoever was involved with the investigation did what they did to get the information that they got, because I'm grateful.
So, were you fairly surprised to hear about this, like all of us were this week as well?
Yeah, I was in denial. Well, this upcoming week, no, I was not surprised. No, to answer your question, I had a feeling that it had something to do with the fire from the beginning.
Oh, and can I ask why?
Because was like for that because when I initially heard that she was missing, I was in denial about it because I hadn't heard everything. And once I began to put everything together, I started realizing that my cousin was missing, and we made our own search party with my aunties and my mom and some close friends, and we went out to where her car was found, which is why this was a big red flag, because if anybody knows Priscilla, she takes care of her car and she's not going to leave it nowhere, especially where it was left, where we found it. So that's why on the drive there, because I was at work when they told me that they were going to go out there and look, and I knew it wasn't going to be safe because it's mainly women in our family. So I went out with them, and it was so thick, the ash from the fires, that we could hardly breathe any type of clean air while we were looking for her. So the officers and the police were really busy with all the fires. And when they came out to talk to us, got the missing photo, they told us that they were going to be too busy to send out the search parties with the fire.
Wow, they said they couldn't send out a search party right away?
They couldn't because it was so bad.
At what point did they?
They had this. It made our family a little upset because I'm not sure at one point they did. Maybe a few days later, but I have to give them credit. Where they found the car in front of the abandoned building, the officers did the best they could to look around the area, and they went inside the house and around the area with us. So I believe them.
And hearing not only about the arson charges, but now because it is considered to be arson, they're saying that, well, I guess they did formally charge him with the other two homicides, the other two people that died in their homes within Solano County lines. Victor is now being charged with those two homicides as well as the arson charges. So now it's like we're not only dealing with the loss of your cousin, we're dealing with the loss of two other people in everyone else's homes. What are your thoughts on that?
It's important to keep us accountable, because in the beginning, it was easy to say, it's easy to go on the news as the governor and say this is all because of climate control. But, you know, when you're the one looking for your cousin out there, I mean, I'm glad he's being face up to what he's gonna have to face up to. You know, no more being out here doing the same stuff.
And you know, the families that lost their homes, they spent 8 months thinking this was caused by lightning or, you know, an act of nature, and now to find out it was all human caused. I spent yesterday talking to fire survivors, people that lost their homes, about this, and hearing their thoughts on, like it wasn't an act of nature, like you said. It's not global warming. I mean, maybe that played a factor in some of its growth, but the fact that it was intentionally set like this, that's what everyone's having a problem wrapping their head around. It's just so shocking to think about. With California being so dry and so hot too. Anything else you would want to say on that?
No, just the fact that I was in denial in the beginning about it all, and luckily everything came out to light like it should have. And so now things are going to be set straight.
Can I say and I apologize that I did not mention them before, but for those that did lose their homes, I lost my home in 6th grade. My aunt, I lived in the Mission in San Francisco, and they owned a Victorian. Their grandfather lived on the bottom. My aunt was in the middle, and we were on the top floor, and it caught fire, and we lost everything. And so I know that devastation as well. I know what it's like to have to flee your house and run. My family lost houses in Petaluma during the fires the year before. My cousin, I mean, it's almost like it's just surrounding us. Like it's surreal that it came to this. And I want them to know that, it's not the people that lost their family, but it's just things, you learn to get over it, and then you cherish every possession you have now. And that even though it might be something so special and sentimental, it's, as long as you remember it and you cherish it, it will always be with you. We not that we apologize, but we are so sympathetic to them for having to go through this because of this monster that had no regard for human life or anything, just his own, he was just worried about himself. He was worried about getting caught. He had his own self in mind, and that's it. And he put everybody at risk. So that whole town should hold him responsible. That whole town should start against him. This should be not just our family, not just the homeowners that had to go through this, should also hold him accountable, any which way they can. And I urge them to make this as hard on him as possible, because he deserves nothing less. He needs, like David said, accountability from everyone. Write a letter, send something, do something, attend the trials, because people need to see that communities can come together in the wake of something as disastrous as this. From one senseless act can ruin communities and families alike. One person.
Wow. I thank you for saying that. That is really important to include with this. So I do really appreciate your thoughts. And I know that this is our first time to hear from any of Priscilla's family members. Is there anything else that either of you two would want to add about Priscilla specifically, and how you want the community to remember her?
Yeah, she had a good heart. She loved everyone. She wasn't violent. She left behind 2 kids, and it was there's no reason for that, for that to have been happened to her like it was. And I hope justice is served.
I definitely, the smiles, I'm gonna miss her smile so much, and just seeing her on Instagram posting her silly pictures. And she didn't take herself seriously at all, and she would post funny pictures, and she would post pictures of herself making silly faces, and she was just a joy. She opened her heart to everyone and anyone. I'm sorry, David. Priscilla was a friend to everyone. everyone. And I want people to remember her with that smile, her crazy tattoos that she loved. I loved it. And just know that if she were here and this happened to anyone else, she'd be the first one up fighting for them. And that's why we're doing this for her.
Well, you guys are both so strong to share your stories. I know that this is not easy stuff for either of you to talk about. So I really do appreciate both of you opening up to me about this. Are either of you guys planning to be at future court appearances, or does the family have any plans for that?
As many as possible. I'm sure all of us, even we've had to do this before, unfortunately. So we try to set up a rotation so Lisa will never be alone. Her mom will never be alone. Her aunts, her sister, brother, there will always be someone with them. We don't want them to feel that we're not supporting them, because she was all of our babies. Priscilla and Eddie and Jasmine literally were the family's baby. She had her mother, she had a father, they had their mother and father, but they had all of us.